Hey everyone, you're watching DeFi Talks with DeFi Dad. Hey, thanks for joining me. It's Tuesday, July 26, 2022. I'm joined here by my good friend Seb Audet from Zapper. You might not know this if you're new to Zapper or if you're new to me, but about a year ago, I just had transitioned from working with Zapper full time. So I'm excited to catch up with Seb here and talk all about Zapper V2. I'll let Seb tell more of the story of Zapper's history and what this V2 has meant for the team. But I can tell you that, Zapper has always been I want to say a home base for us as DeFi users and now Web3 users. And so, yeah, Seb, thanks for joining me and excited to, like I said, talk through Zapper V2.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much for having me. I was feeling a bit nostalgic watching that little intro. And I think it's like the first time. Is it the first time I hop on a live stream
It's
with
been a
you?
while. It's funny because obviously if you go into the tv.zapper.fi, which is their YouTube, there's about 100 episodes of Zapper TV, and it was a different time. Like we were watching like all these new protocols launch and got to do interviews at the time and explore all the different DeFi applications. And so I mean, funny enough, what started as this like ultimate DeFi dashboard, you guys have clearly recognized the mainstream attention on NFTs and actually DAOs. So I'll let you tell more about like the origin of this. Maybe you should refresh everyone though on DeFi Snap and DeFi Zap. Like how did everything get started? How did Zapper actually form from the beginning?
Yeah, so Zapper really, first got introduced to solve a problem that I had, which was tracking my own DeFi positions. And so the first use case, I think, was tracking both Uniswap and Synthetics positions in one place. And if you think about, we didn't really think about it as Web3 at the time. Like I think most of the use case revolved around DeFi. Most people were using DeFi. Like there were still like these satellite communities in the NFT space, DAO space, but they're really like, I wouldn't say like the majority of how people kind of were using crypto at the time. And thinking about Zapper's journey along those lines, our use case was primarily DeFi, and one kind of reason that helped us anchor ourselves into being more than just DeFi was that we set a single product truth that can map out Zapper in the future. So a product truth being something that is true for Zapper today that will be true in 10 years. And it was that people want to see what's in their wallet. Doesn't matter if it's a DeFi position, doesn't matter if it's an NFT, doesn't matter. Like the way, the industry it's in didn't really matter. Like the fundamental problem was that people had difficulty seeing what's in their wallet. And what's in your wallet can be a lot of things, like I just said, but it can also be like your reputation, your identity, the things you did in the past. And so once we've anchored ourselves around that, it becomes easier to see the evolution towards our Zapper V2. And then like another kind of big change in how we viewed Zapper. So, right now, like, being able to see what's in your wallet, it's still very single player focused. Like it's you and your balances. It's, it's more a portfolio tracker that has NFTs and other stuff in it. But something that helped us, again, anchor Zapper towards V2 was thinking about Zapper as an account profile instead of a portfolio tracker. So we're actually surfacing the information from an account, And then, you probably have used this feature a bunch of times, but like we notice that people like explore and search for other accounts, what they're up to, what they're doing. And we're seeing that more and more. And it's funny because we kind of like the first version of that feature, like being able to see other accounts, was just being able to impersonate another portfolio. It was not really like from the view of searching someone else. It was more like, no, we're going to use Zapper in impersonate mode for any wallet. It kind of
I
shows
forgot
how we
about
weren't
that.
thinking. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
shows how we weren't thinking of it as more of like being able to search things outside of, you and your own balances. And then there's the other part where Zapper's expertise has been always about surfacing and interpreting on-chain data in a way that's readable and consumable to everyone. And we've started that expertise with DeFi, and saw that we could apply that to different domains, to DAOs and NFTs. And then, what becomes really interesting with that is that we can create these connected paths that you can take between these different spheres. I think like in the future, it'll be a bit weird that, all the front ends are these silos built on, this shared database, right? Like, I
Right.
think something that is profound to a lot of people using Web3 is seeing that they can connect, their wallet to different places. Like, I think a lot of newcomers still see a lot of these front ends as, oh, this is Facebook and this is, YouTube, and they don't talk to each other. And I think like one big realization is seeing that, they're both built on this shared database. And for us, it was how can we take the blockchain and kind of illuminate it to people, or bring it closer, like show the inner workings in a way that's more consumable for people versus just ending up siloing everything. And so that's really what kind of gave us the the insights that we should build V2.
Yeah, there was a lot of information arbitrage previously, and I feel like you've sort of broken down, some of that and brought it all together in one place. I think this actually kind of goes back to, I gave a very short talk at ETHCC. I have no idea why they accepted me, but thank you for having me, because the conference is filled with all these brilliant builders and developers, and I gave one of the, I think, very few like non-developer, non-builder related talks. But I just wanted to emphasize that like we live in a community where everything we do is clearly dictated by these mimetic desires that we have and the models that we sort of follow. And one of the earliest examples of that, is that as we were all using Zapper to track our own wallets and try to get an aggregate view of where the hell is all of our money, what DeFi positions were they in, you started to learn actually a lot. I remember, I want to say it was like summer, fall 2020, where you could really see that users were talking about, who is doing what with their money. Like, what are some of the big whales? In fact, I remember one of the biggest users turned out to be who was the Celsius team.
Yeah,
Remember the
yeah.
0xB1
Yeah,
wallet?
I remember.
That was a
Yeah.
big one for us and everyone to be sort of following, because there was hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars at work. And, this is a part of what has always made, I think, DeFi and Web3 really radical, is that there is that instant audit ability and transparency to being able to see what's happening in real time. There's no black box, unless you put your money into Celsius. That was a black box. But on chain, there is no sort of black box. Seb, what about your own journey with NFTs? I know you were just starting to really get into NFTs. I want to say like spring, summer 2021, because I remember us all talking as a team about supporting NFTs on the portfolio tracker, which at the start was as primitive as using the OpenSea API. But then, talk us through like what were your light bulb moments with NFTs and kind of seeing that Zapper would make this pivot into being more of a Web3 explorer.
Yeah, so that's so first, like kind of my journey into NFTs was something I like to do when building a product is trying to be like the very average to like a very active average user, if I could put it that way, to be able to understand their reality and the problems they're facing. And also, like, everyone was talking about NFTs, so I was like, I need to learn more about this. What's going on here? There's probably something that I don't realize or know that others clearly know. I think during the spring, I set myself up to be in different communities, like I kind of did with DeFi. Like I was in a bunch of DeFi discords, just hanging around. And so did the same thing with NFTs to kind of really try to understand what's going on and also see how Zapper can come and solve some problems that we're kind of seeing in the NFT space as well. And in fact, what happened is that I became more and more kind of ingrained and interested in NFTs. And I think the moment for me that kind of changed my view is, and I think typically, and I don't want to generalize for everyone, but I think the trap is that people just think about the image or the way the NFT itself is expressed. So they'll be like, oh, it's just image. And if you just think about it, image, then yeah, you can right click, save it, but it's much more than that. Like it is the tip of the iceberg. And one thing, and the other thing that, going along that line is that when you think about a governance token, say like a random governance token, Aave, Aave, the amount of tokens you have in Aave is just a number in a database. And it represents your stake in that community and that protocol. And a lot of NFTs aren't that different, but in fact, they're like a token, but enriched. They have an image, they have a face with it. And I saw it, that it could potentially solve a lot of problems that we have with community building. There's a reason why the PFP mania, kind of took off, is because it's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to distribute a brand and a sense of identity within a community, and potentially even see it as a way to solve important issues on governance as well, because it really it is your face inside this community that you kind of resonate with. And so I saw a lot of these things that could help solve a lot of issues we have with just standard ERC20 tokens.
Yeah, I think there are lots on the outside of Web3 and NFTs who have maybe not appreciated just, our desire to want to own things and to have something as a symbol or representation of who we are, or in some cases, it's a representation of like the community that we're a part of. And probably the thing that has helped us the most to grow, but also hurt us at times, is the prices. As you pointed out, if you own an Aave token, an ERC20 token, I mean, you're owning one of many tokens. What gives it value is what people are buying and selling it for on a DEX. And, when you look at the Bored Ape NFTs, or you look at punks, they have very different meanings for different communities. Bored Apes have become very, I would say, expensive for most to be able to afford and own. Punks as well. But once upon a time, these things were incredibly inexpensive, and I do want to say they sort of represent the evolution of these different communities, some of which actually include lots of builders, like yourself within the DeFi and the NFT space. And so, anyways, there has clearly been a lack of I want to say like a single point of truth, like a source of truth for bringing that all together. And I think that's where Zapper V2 comes into play. So I guess, would you like to start screen sharing? Like this might be a good segue into starting to talk through some of the new features. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. So I am going to share your screen. There we go. And if anyone wants to follow along with us, go to zapper.fi. And yeah, that's where you can get started. And yeah, Seb, kind of walk us through. I definitely have a number of use cases I had in mind for just sort of like demonstrating the different ways that we might start to use this.
Yes. So this is our new homepage. And here we kind of laid out the 4 different verticals that you can have these rabbit hole-like kind of experiences where you explore, these different components that make Web3. And I think with time, like these things, it'll be a bit weird that we've kind of created these very general category, but we did NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs. Because currently, this is the way the market kind of sees these things. Maybe NFTs, it becomes weird that we talk about it as, in this way. Maybe DeFi becomes a subsection of like apps. And so there's a lot of different ways we can build this, but we wanted to create the best window into what Web3 is currently. So this is why we kind of, did it this way. So here you kind of have a quick overview of the trending NFT collections. Here you can see popular accounts, Mariano, Zeneca, Fuckrender, DC Investor.
Seb, what drives the rankings there? Like when it says trending, anything there you can share about like what promotes something above the rest?
So here it's really just based on the last day. What are the trending NFT collections?
Is that based on like trade volume or
yeah, it's trade volume in the last day. Cool. So you'll see that this isn't very different than here. Here it's a bit different. Here we actually handpicked accounts, and the reason we handpicked accounts is because currently, we have people that want to be higher on the leaderboard page, and so we handpicked, accounts that have a lot of variety that you can explore. We'll try to see how that evolves in the future. Perhaps there's a bit more like community creation. But the goal here is really kind of handpick things that we think are interesting for the community. But there's a lot of different formats that we can use to share these things. And then we have, different DAOs and DeFi. We usually try to highlight things that have been built by our community. So here in Discover DeFi, these will often be apps that have been integrated by third-party developers on Zapper Studio. Which, so if anyone's listening, if your app is missing on Zapper, your balance is in a specific protocol, you can add it directly to Zapper at studio.zapper.fi. So this is the homepage. Then I'll hop into the different subsections. So this gives you at a glance a view of what's going on the last day, but you can also toggle, in the different time frames. So let's say last month. Here I can see the ape punk that got sold sometime, I think in the past few weeks. What's cool is, I can click on this one, then see the estimated value, what it was last sold at, also see the rarity. So among all the crypto punks, we consider this one to be the 34th rarest.
Very cool. So, is there there's no Oh, I see it there. Estimated value. I was going to say so where does that estimated value come from? And any chance we'll see multiple sources for valuing these in the future?
Yeah, definitely. So the way the estimated value currently works is that so in this case, we look at the different traits that this NFT has, and then for each trait, we look at the last sales, and then we build a time-weighted average for those traits.
Oh, interesting. So this is a whole nother source of truth then for estimating that value, because you've got obviously we all use OpenSea and sort of refer to that last sale like you mentioned, and there's stuff like Upshot. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
We do plan on pulling in sources from different places, for sure. There's things like estimated value is definitely something that's very hard to do.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we're always shipping improvements. Like one of them is that right now we're in a very low volume period for NFTs. And so estimated values will be much harder to estimate because there's not a lot of points to gather to kind of estimate them. Whereas in high volume periods, you have a lot of points. And so you can chart out a better estimated value. But we're building things that kind of take that into account.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Then again, it's very subjective. So it'll always be very hard to arrive at something that is.
Yeah, sometimes you see the I don't want to even call it just wash trading. There are reasons that some will like sell from one wallet to the other, or they'll sell it to a friend. Let's say you're the most generous person in the world and you sell a punk for really cheap to a friend, and then that sort of sits outside of what the true value might be. But anyways, this is something that I know I have enjoyed looking for in the past, but I've sort of had to look across multiple tools. And so now this is something that I can conveniently find in the same window frame as my Zapper profile and Zapper wallets.
Yeah, and something that I think is very cool, one of my favorite features is here, so I'm in the CryptoPunks collection page. I can see who I follow also owns punks in this collection.
That's right.
Which is something
That's
I'm
cool.
very curious about what others are doing. Again, here before I jump here you can see the rarity. This I think is Seed Phrase's NFT with estimated value. So here when I click on this, I can see the breakdown of their ownership. And so Wilcox has 215 punks. Pretty nice bag.
Yeah.
And here, so these are all the people that I follow that own punks. And, I could just click on one. So let's click on DC Investor. And then I land on their account page with, the punks they own. So these are all the punks that DC Investor has. I can remove this filter and then see the other things that, are in their collection. All these autoglyphs. I mean, this is a very nice collection as well.
Seb, am I able then to look at who you're following, and any chance we'll be able to auto follow let's say I definitely need to follow more NFT collectors, and I'm realizing your profile has lots that I would be interested in there. Is there an ability to say, hey, I'm just going to follow everything that Seb's following?
Yeah. So what you do is, you go on the account page and then you just click on the following here. So in this case, I'm looking at all of the accounts that FlashRect is following.
Very cool. Yeah, really cool. Man, looking at some of these NFTs right now, I forgot how much they've come down in price. I've been paying probably more attention to how wrecked I am and others are on DeFi tokens, but I forget. I'm like, wow, punks they're still expensive, I think for the average person, but yeah, these have come down a lot in value, both in USD and in some cases, some of these have come down in Ether.
Yeah. One of the another cool thing is if I pull up a very big collection, I think Dingaling is probably one of the most notable collectors. You'll see that there's quite a lot of results that we've pulled in just for Dingaling, like 10,209 NFTs. And that's after filtering a lot of spam. There's probably still some spam here in his collection, but we've effectively indexed every NFT on Ethereum. We built our own indexer, and all the data that you see here has been surfaced using that indexer. There's Pranksy. I think Pranksy has even more NFTs.
Yeah, no, it's kind of amazing how much some of these folks have collected. Oh my gosh. That is 11,000 ETH. Anyways, you can hear my own genuine reactions here. You just forget how much activity in our space is just driven by interest and curiosity, and I even sometimes envy and jealousy of what others have. And I know from a DeFi perspective, I used to follow a bunch of wallets to see like what else are others doing. Is anyone really doing anything that complex, or are they keeping it more simple? And I think on the NFT front, I've been amazed following some wallets how they really are just buying lots of what I would say is junk. But then among some of the junk, some of these folks have just, obviously been really successful buying some of the right collections. But
yeah, and like one example is, say here that I'd be potentially interested in this collection. I see it trending. Yeah. You can also use like the people you follow as some sort of social proof, a way to gauge legitimacy into a project. Like if there's, say for example, I follow all the top NFT collectors, and there's one that's high in the trending, but somehow none of them have picked up this NFT. Like perhaps that would have been an indicator. Maybe I'd be a super contrarian if I have this one, or maybe it's actually a really bad idea. Or maybe, there's a few that picked it up and it could, surface some interest. Like in this case, there's two that own this one. Maybe it is interesting. An interesting way to look at NFT collections. And kind of going on top of the follow stuff and the learning from others and seeing what they're up to, we have this feature that we're building that will be launched sometime into Q3, which is our feed, where say I follow Dingaling. Well, every time Dingaling does a transaction, I'd be able to see it right there.
Oh, that's really cool. So are you receiving like a notification then?
Probably not at first. So the first version of the page will be just seeing, kind of all the recent transactions of interest that, from the accounts you follow, and then seeing kind of like the trending stuff, like, what, a lot of people are up to currently on chain, which, is something I do on Etherscan. I'll sometimes use Nansen as well to do that, right? But just to get like a gauge of what the hell's currently going on.
Yeah, I have thought this is a more like friendly version of Nansen. Nansen obviously covering a lot more like in-depth analytics, two very different tools. But I think for those of us who aren't data scientists, this for me is a little bit easier to get started on and start exploring.
There's also our DAO page. I could look at different DAOs. So ApeCoin here, I see who's a part of ApeCoin that I follow as well. I can see the full member list as well.
This is an interesting exercise because you start to learn how large the treasury is behind some of these projects. And I can tell you if you were to have looked back at this, a year ago, it's a reminder, like even the best projects, the most like respected, the most, successful, everyone has really seen a real drawdown here. So times have changed, and there's probably some opportunity there for developing better DAO treasury management tools.
Yeah, like this is a good one. Like people often want to know, like Nouns DAO, how much ETH they have in their treasury, also who's a part of it. Like a lot of these people I didn't know are members of Nouns DAO. So these are really interesting things. Another thing I just pointed, just did is our search bar is really global. Like if I just tap in Uni, I'll see results across a bunch of different verticals. So like the protocols, collections, I'll see tokens, accounts, and then the DAO. So it's a very general search. I can search for a specific NFT collection as well.
Oh, this is kind of a first. One thing that we've seen users do, which is really dangerous, is to go Googling. Don't Google protocols and DAOs and so on. Like I mean, you can do it if you're very, very cautious, but there are lots of fake websites out there. And so this to me is this is a safer place for you to explore Web3.
Yep.
Actually, on that note, Seb, are there any precautions that you're taking as a team right now to prevent, like someone taking over the Zapper domain or suffering one of those like spoofing attacks that, we saw Ribbon, Finance, and DeFi Saver, quite a few Convex, some really reputable teams. I assume you guys are already on top of that, but curious if there's if you think that's still a viable vector for attack with other teams in Web3.
Yeah, no, definitely. What's hard as well is you kind of have to. It is in a way like an arms race, or the angles of attack are always different. And so like that one specifically with the domain names, I guess it's not a new one per se, like in general, but for Web3, definitely an angle that I don't think a lot of teams expected. Sure, like we have a lot of admin controls and two-factor authentication with a lot of things, like with our Twitter, Discord, to make these type of attacks much harder.
Absolutely. One thing I realized we might not have covered is, can you just point out if you use the address book in the previous version of Zapper, where do you find that now?
So it's right here. So here, I have my bundles, and then your address book would be right here. Then you have your token watch list as well.
There we go. And then another piece that's being revamped. Anything you can tell us about Zaps, like what, or anything that we can look forward to and what you guys are rebuilding?
Yes. So with the launch of V2, we decided to discontinue Zaps in their current form for a few reasons, but mainly because they were very hard to maintain. We often had to create one specifically for a protocol. When you have 200 Zaps set across different networks, it becomes very, very hard to maintain. We also noticed like that a lot of the newcomers didn't necessarily gravitate towards Zaps as much, that they were a very, I'd say like a power feature for DeFi users. And even I'd say like more on the hardcore side. And so the goal for us is repackaging it in a different way that is a bit more accessible to everyone. So the context will change. The Zaps themselves will probably be, a bit different in how we kind of show them on the UI. But all that, like the reason why we discontinued it really so we can focus on, instead of maintaining something that is very time costly, is, kind of let's just move on from them and focus on these new transactional experiences that our users can expect sometime by the end of the year, early next year.
Yeah, I don't know if users ever fully appreciated the risk involved in those. I remember in the really early days, just me personally, I was worried what happens if just something goes wrong here. One of the, some, not even like an exploit type of issue, but more just all the sorts of what's the what's the wording for it, like fringe sort of scenarios that happen, really illiquid tokens where someone would zap in and then end up with, a screwed up ratio
Yeah.
of those tokens, and then think that, hey, what just happened? Did Zapper take this? So yeah, I'm excited for that to eventually be, if I'm understanding what you're saying there, I'm excited for more of this responsibility to be on builders and protocols, because they're
Mhm.
fully incentivized to want all of this to, be well maintained, so that users can make use of them. Seb, anything else from Zapper V2 that is worth noting, or anything that is coming in the near future that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so there's a lot of improvements that we're going to be making across the board, notably like the estimated values. We're always improving the rarity scores. There is some transactional features that we're also planning with NFTs, revolving around P2P trades, also
Oh,
potentially
very cool.
aggregating as well, from different marketplaces, so you can list and buy directly on Zapper, things that
Cool.
aren't in the plans currently. But I think closer to release is supporting NFTs on other chains, notably Polygon. There's POAPs on Gnosis chain, which has been probably one of the most requested features on Zapper. One thing that's cool with that to note
Very
is
cool.
I think POAP, in the context of being able to see the other accounts who also own it, I think is really interesting, because you can see, oh, this account also went to ETH Denver, and you can see if, start. It's such a nice way to have these, surface these connecting nodes between people, in a way that you can find, similar, um, you know, accounts, right? So I think that's very interesting and fits quite nicely in the narrative. That's something we're working on as well. Um, and then there's a lot of stuff. So I think a lot of people in our community are expecting, I see season 3 mentioned a lot.
Oh
So
yeah.
we had 2 seasons of gamification, season
Very
1 and
cool.
season 2. So what I'd say to the community is expect something a bit different than seasons. We do have plans in regards to all that stuff, but the context would probably be different than having a season 3. But there's definitely something in the works.
Very cool. I'm excited for whatever you guys are working on related to actually buying on Zapper. It to me feels like the most like obvious thing that I would want to do using that tool set. Like I would just be clicking through those and saying like, all right, so here's a collection and like what's available. The stuff that's
Yep.
already hosted on OpenSea
Yep.
and looks rare. I think also too, we've all really enjoyed the rise of what is it, Gem and Genie. So, sort of incorporating that will be really exciting. I mean,
Yep.
anything that's actionable. That I remember a long time ago us talking about if you're looking at your DeFi portfolio, or you're looking at your wallets, uh I absolutely believe that one day Zapper, without it giving me financial advice, will offer me these sorts of intelligent hints of like, hey, clearly you like stablecoin LPs. Here's, one that's earning, some high fees if you're, if you have undeployed stable
Mhm.
coins. So yeah, it's really cool to think about all the possibilities coming.
Yeah, and there's one thing on education that I've been thinking a lot about is, so we often see it as, the teacher-student relationship, in the sense that, you want to learn about DeFi, and DeFi Zapper is going to help you kind of, invest in that local maximum of knowledge, like learn about yields and these things. But I think like a piece of the puzzle that's missing is the social learning and the mimicking nature of us seeing what others are up to in the space. And I think like that potentially is even more a powerful way of learning from looking at what others are doing than it being Zapper, telling you like about these new cool things. Instead, it's like, oh, you can see what other accounts are up to, and you can learn from, Tetranode, how he does specific things because they're surfaced in an easier way. It's like more of a social investor network in a way.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of token sets back in the day when they did social trading, but they were just a little ahead of the market. One you might check out is nested.finance. They're at a point where it's still trading. So you look at someone's portfolio and you can copy it, but you, like on Zapper, are forced to actually transact, which I think is the difference between there's definitely worries, I think, with regulators amongst DeFi builders. If you allow someone to continually copy someone's every move, technically that person's managing your money, especially if they're earning a fee. And then it just gets into all sorts of dicey situations. But I think if I'm on Zapper and if I'm following someone, if I see a position that I like, which this is actually, I'm kind of describing what Nested does, but without all of the benefits of Zapper. It's cool. And I mean, maybe that's a future integration. They're still pretty early building on optimism, but I could see looking at someone's DeFi portfolio or even NFTs and saying, I want to accumulate five of some NFT from that collection, and then you can buy the floor price of 5 of the lowest priced NFTs. But anyways, yeah, all sorts of cool stuff there that we can look forward to. So Seb, how often is the community call now for Zapper? If someone wants to like start to get involved beyond just like hopping in Discord and being a user, are you guys hosting it once a month?
Once a month. Cool. And we miss you. You should hop.
I need to rejoin. Yeah. Dude, that community call is insane. Like you had like 1,000 people in it not too long ago. And I was like, I remember when there was like 5 of us in a community call, and it was actually you, me, like Nodar and Evan Van Ness, who reminded me the other day that he was literally there like every week in the weeds with us. That. Well, I want to remind everyone then too, you can follow Zapper here on Twitter, follow Seb on Twitter for all the like latest leaks on new features on Zapper. Make sure you start exploring Web3 at zapper.fi. This has truly evolved from a tool that we used to, introduce friends who are into DeFi, saying, hey, just go to Zapper and you'll be able to figure it out from there. Now you can truly get started just from an information perspective, starting to learn about DAOs and NFTs and DeFi. And then if you're a protocol, reminder to go to studio.zapper.fi. You can get everything listed there on the Zapper dashboard, given the way that they've built Zapper Studio out. And then lastly, if you are a DAO, make sure if you go to zapper.fi, there's a Zendesk tool there. And that's where you can get all of your information listed. So Seb, any last words here for everyone? Just thanks so much for your time and just really enjoyed. This is great to catch up.
Definitely. I think the first time you saw V2, I think we were in a coffee shop in a restaurant in
New York.
Yeah.
No, I know. No, it's wild. It's a really it's radical how much you've dumbed things down. Zapper really, I remember like as DeFi power users, we would say this is friendly for everyone, but in truth, we knew it was like, well, you have to know how to set up like a MetaMask, and you got to get fiat into some sort of crypto first. There were quite a few steps there. now this is, this is something you should be able to enjoy this without actually transacting. But I think the point of all of this is to move the needle so that someone becomes empowered with information and hence is brave enough to actually transact and enjoy it. But otherwise, thanks everyone for joining us. And if you enjoyed this, you can subscribe at defidad.com to watch other interviews with super talented founders like Seb. And then also, if you think you're building the next Zapper, except not in competition with Zapper, but if you're building a great DeFi, NFT, Web3 protocol, please get in touch with me and my team at fourthrevolution.capital. We'd love to partner with you. Other than that, Seb, thanks so much, man. I'll end the broadcast here and that'll be it. So thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you.